What's up, guys, and welcome to this. This is your WWE Monday Night Raw recap show from October the 21st, 2024. I'm your host, LK. If you haven't done so already, hit the like button, drop a comment on your thoughts and opinions on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, as well as hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be honest, I haven't done a Raw review in a while. If you haven't already done so, go back and check out me and Dion's show we did on Thursday. We covered all the latest goings in AEW, WWE, and New Japan, which was a really fun show. So go check that out. That was uploaded on Thursday, and we talked a bit about WWE, and it was a really shit episode of Monday Night Raw last week. It really was. So I was like, you know what? I've got a fairly free evening. Finished work, came back, watched Monday Night Raw, and I'm going to be honest. This is the first time I feel they've done the 2 hours correctly. So they've done the 2 hour episodes of Raw for the past 3 weeks. This is the first time it's felt like it was done properly. It felt like a lot happened, and it felt like a good show. So we're going to break that down. Again, I want to make it clear, not a WWE shill, not an AEW shill, not a New Japan shill, just a fan of wrestling. So I am going to be positive about this show. I am going to be negative about this show. So please, if you enjoy wrestling, please don't pick a side. Let's all stop this now. I see on the Twitter machine, it's very, if you're a WWE fan, you can't be an AEW fan. And like for example, when the Motor City Machine Guns debuted on SmackDown, there's loads of people who were extremely happy. I was happy. Good for them. Been watching them for 16 plus years. I'm really glad they're getting a main feature on SmackDown. They'll be facing DIY on SmackDown this week for a chance to potentially challenge for the WWE Tag Team Championships, which is cool. But there's lots of AEW fans. Oh, listen to the pop. They're not stars. It's like just WWE fans. There was no reaction because WWE fans don't know wrestling. It's like just if you just watch WWE, that's perfect. Let's not attack anyone. Let's make this a fun space again. It never used to be like this. When I used to do this back in the day, it never used to be like this. Actually, that's not true. There was a form of New Japan tribalism where there was certain fans that thought they were better than because they watched New Japan. That's not the case anymore. It's more AEW against WWE. So let's get down to breaking down the show. So the show started off with lots of wrestlers. I'm using Figure 4W Online, Wrestling Observer, for the results. I didn't take any notes. I just sat back, relaxed, and enjoyed the show, or tried to. And I was going to come on here and give my fair analysis. And I want to say, I'm not a subscriber. Won't be. The last thing I want to do is pay £14 to listen to Uncle Dave's opinion when I could read it for free. That's how I see it. There's enough Twitter, or there'll be a clip. I don't care enough. It is what it is. So I'm using their website for the results, and I just want to say how many adverts, and I'm not using a phone, I'm using a computer. The amount of adverts that are on the computer site. So right now there's a video advert. On the right hand side is a massive banner advert. Below that is an advert, and then right at the bottom there's a banner advert. Now these guys, mate, they charge what, $12.99, $14.99 a month, and they're cramming these ads, and it's a bit of a clusterfuck, to be honest. I might have to change next week or the next time I do a review as to what website I use, because quite frankly it's quite distracting, and there's just too much of it. Anyway, so they start off Raw, loads of wrestlers entering the arena, and they did this really cool thing. So security guards bring the crown jewel belt into the building. They got this in this really hard they got this in a really big they got this in a long black, they got this in a really big case, right? And they open it, and they're wearing gloves, and they're shining it. Little touches like that make that belt feel important. Even if you're not really that excited for Cody Gunther, because in reality, what does it actually matter? Like, if you win the Crown Jewel Championship, then what? It's really interesting, because on one hand, it's like Cody Rhodes and Gunther would be a great match. One's on Raw, one's on SmackDown. It's not a match you'd usually see. And the concept of world champion versus world champion every year is perfect. But the problem is what stake could you give that besides having a belt? Anyway, they then go straight to Seth Rollins attacking Bronson Reed, and then Rollins just rushed to the ring, and they did this really cool shot where they followed him all the way to the ring. And I thought those shots that they do are out of this world. They really, really are. Every wrestling company watching, I hope they are watching that and being like, right, that is the next step, because it really is. It really adds. It makes you feel like the whole arena can be. Because I remember there was a time in WWE where there would just be backstage interviewers in this big LED screen. They even did it in a ring in an LED screen at one point, and that was just really. It felt like there wasn't a backstage area. Whereas, like during the Attitude Era, for example, they'd use the full building, and that's what they do now, and it's much better. And then Bronson Reed comes out. There's loads of security. They then brawl. Bronson Reed gets the upper hand, but then he goes for a tsunami off the barricade and crashes hard through the table as they pull Seth Rollins away. Really good build. This is just is really good stuff. The crowd were really hot. It was a good way to start the show. It wasn't a normal way to start the show. You know, a normal way to start Raw is Wrestler A comes out, cuts promo, walks to the back. That's kind of what you're used to. Or it sets up a tag match or a 6-man tag main event or something along those lines. So it's nice to start off that way. Start different. And I enjoyed it. And then we had an interview with Damage Control. Io Sky said that they're going to take out Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. And just to confirm that they're not done with Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, and they want the tag titles. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez showed up. Morgan told Redmond to leave, who was the interviewer. She then cut a promo on Nia Jax saying but then she was cut off by Kairi Sane. Morgan told her that she and Rodriguez could win the tag titles anytime they wanted. They argued until Sane challenged them to a fight tonight. They accept. There we go. That's fine. It wasn't the best. At least it's a purpose for the match. I like the fact they're introducing the Morgan and Rodriguez as a potential tag team champion down the line. That's cool. I'm glad they're doing something with the women's tag division. Then we have the announcement of Lillian Garcia. She is the new Monday Night Raw ring announcer. She's replacing Samantha Irvin, who left the company to pursue her music career, so all the best to her. She did a really good job, especially, for example, WrestleMania when Cody won the Undisputed World Championship. She elevated that moment and made it so special by her raw emotion. That's one thing that she had really, really, really excelled at as being a ring announcer. You felt like she cared about the baby faces and she hated the heels. It was really good. And obviously Lillian Garcia, she's been doing it for 20 years. This is a pro. No problem, no issues with her at all taking the lead as ring announcer. Who else? So we had a tag title number one contenders tournament match. We had Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods defeating the Authors of Pain, who were with the Final Testament. Now, heading into this match, I couldn't give two shits. They're doing this story with Xavier Woods and Kofi, which is going to lead to the breakup of the New Day, or Big E comes in to save the team. But I just don't care. And I don't know why. I think maybe it's because the way, Kofi loses regularly, Woods loses, they lose quite regularly. So maybe seeing them not, because for a time there was just them and the Usos just basically reigning supreme. They had an incredible Hell in a Cell match many moons ago, but that was when they were red hot, and then Kofi went on to win the WWE Championship. And then, since losing the belt to Brock, in what was a disgrace, it's kind of, what have they done? And it's like they're there, they get a good pop, and that's that. The match was pretty dull. R-Truth came in. He attacked The Miz, who was standing with Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross then tried to save Miz, but Truth hit him with a bicycle kick. That allowed Kingston to roll up Razor to get the win, so Xavier Woods got the win there, so they advance in this number contenders title tournament for the World Tag Team titles. And then Truth was post-match. Truth was attacked by the Final Testament, which is Authors of Pain and carrying the cross. And then Kingston and Woods are on the ramp. Kingston's trying to go back to help, and Woods is pushing Kingston, saying, "No, we don't need to get involved. We've got a number contenders match next week. We need to win those titles. We need to win," which, in fairness, makes sense, but also very heelish. So then again, that sets up Kingston and Woods. And then the lights went out. Wyatt Six appears. The Wyatts attacked the Final Testament. They brawled through the crowd, and then Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, he was going to attack the Miz, but Paul Ellering pushed him out of the way. He applied the mandible claw. Crowd big pop. They're really over, this Wyatt Six. Believe it or not, during the summer, I watched the pay-per-views. I never missed a WWE pay-per-view. I don't think I ever have. At least since I can remember. But the Raws in between I'd kind of skip, so I actually haven't seen much, only on clips of the Wyatt Six, and I enjoyed it from what I saw. The crowd were really into it. I hope they go with this. I hope at Crown Jewel we get a Wyatt Six Final Testament 6-man tag. That's something I'm down with. There was some really good brawls backstage. So after that, we went to Jackie Redmond, tried to interview Raw General Manager Pierce. Basically, she was asking him, how are you going to get this under control? And then bam, 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 roll into Tact Reed, and then they're separated by officials, and he just goes, "Never mind," and it was good. Then there was an interview with Jey Uso, basically saying he's going to retain the IC title tonight. Then there was a really good video promo actually with Raquel Rodriguez, really hyping up that Rhea Ripley will never win the title as long as she's around. And it was good, and they're using stuff like, for example, Rhea cost them the women's tag titles, attacked Liv Morgan, cost her 6 months of her career. That was a really good video package, and I don't know why they didn't do this more when Raw was 3 hours. Makes no sense. Then we go to Io Sky and Kairi Sane defeating Raquel Rodriguez and Women's World Champion Liv Morgan v DQ. They built up Legend and Jackson against Damage Control for NXT on Tuesday. And then Rhea Ripley's music hit after the whole Jackson and Legend got involved. Monstrous pop. Probably biggest pop of the night. Ripley then takes out Rodriguez, takes out Morgan, and then Dominic Mysterio comes out. She then puts him in the Prism Trap. Crowd go wild, and then Rodriguez and Morgan pulled Dominic Mysterio out of harm's way. I liked it. The match itself was okay. It kind of felt like, well, we needed to chuck a match together, so why not? You're building up several rivalries in this tag match. You're not kind of just throwing. They did that last week. They kind of had this 8-woman tag that meant nothing. If don't be like, oh, we need to have a women's match on the show. Just put some fucking time and effort, sit down and think, right, what women rivals have we got going on in the moment? You got Legend and Jackson who'll be taking on Damage Control. So they had Jackson and Legend involved. Morgan and Ripley are having a rivalry, as is Raquel. So you add them all together, add Dom in, perfect. Like, it was really good. The crowd were really hot all night. Pierce then tried to confront Rollins by saying, "What are you doing?" But then Reed immediately attacked him. They were separated again. Pierce just screams at them. He then says, "You get what you want, a match at Crown Jewel." Boom. Perfect. Then there was a War Raiders video package. This was interesting. It happened. I loved War Raiders in Ring of Honor. Liked them in NXT. They're fine. I think they're two really good wrestlers. I remember Ivar went on a singles run before that stopped. So who knows what they're going to do with them, but they got this triple threat coming up next Monday, which we'll get to because we'll break down next Mondays at the end. But it wasn't, I don't really care for it, but I respect the effort at least. Then we had this Judgment Day, and now Judgment Day, who gives a fuck? Sorry, They're doing this Judgment Day continuing. It's JD McDonough and fucking... I like Balor, but his stock's dropped. And Carlito, I like Carlito, but he's been positioned as the joke. It is what it is. Like, him calling himself the Fix was quite amusing. He tries to then later on in the show go to Adam Pearce and get Dom as the new number one contender for the World Championship, and he says if he can beat a former World Champion next week on Raw, he'll be able to potentially become a number one contender. And then we had a tag team number one contenders match again. We had Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee defeating the Creed brothers in 10 minutes and 59 seconds, and this was a really good match. I really enjoyed this. I really did. There was the match finished with Rey hitting Judas with 619, followed by a frog splash from Dragon Lee. Crowd really got into it. There was involvement with Selena Vega and Nile on the outside, where she ended up hitting over Hurricane Rana. There was some really good spots. There was a spot where one of the Creed brothers was on his knees and he stood up with Mysterio in a suplex position. It was just really good. So that sets up next week's triple threat number one contender for the World Tag Team titles. We've got the LWO, New Day, War Raiders. Should be good. Who knows? So the current World Tag Team champions are JD McDonough and Finn Balor. You would assume it's going to be the New Day that wins, and then we finally get the demise of the New Day. And I think Xavier Woods attacks Kofi Kingston, and I think that's when we're going to get the return of Big E Langston. There was also a really terrible line that... I just reread there that Carlito, when Carlito went to Adam Pearce's office, Damage Control speaking Japanese at Pearce about something, he walks away and Carlito goes, "I got to learn Chinese." I don't know if that was extremely racist. I didn't really appreciate that. There we go. So we had interview of Bron Breaker saying he's a badass. He's about to do what badasses do. His promos, there was a video package that aired last week and they re-aired it this week on Raw. And it was really good. It was intensity. It was just really good. He is going to be such a star. And doing those video packages where, you know, he's shouting and get really aggressive, it's just really good to see. You know, with the amount of times back in the day when you'd see guys on NXT, when they'd come over to the main roster, they'll just be flops. Whereas now with Triple H at the helm, that doesn't happen. His strengths are he can wrestle, he's intense. Put those two together, you don't need long-winded promos, boom, straight to the point. Then they had an interview with Gunther. He basically promoted the fact that he's going to be on SmackDown on Friday and promoted the Crown Jewel match. Damian Priest then came in and says, "I'll be waiting for you after Crown Jewel to get my World Championship back." Gunther chuckled. I'm going to be honest here, I don't care for Damian Priest being World Champion again. Hot take. I think he's a really good wrestler. Do I think he's the guy that takes you into the Netflix era? No. Is he a valuable star to have on the roster? Yes. 100%. I'm not saying the guy's shit. Not at all. I think he needs to be more established as a babyface. So I wouldn't mind, in particular, to see him versus Bron Breaker. That's something that would interest me. I think you could establish Breaker more of a heel, and you could build Damian Priest as a babyface. I think he needs to get away from this Judgment Day thing, which is difficult because he's still aligned with Rhea Ripley as he should. But I definitely think that him as world champion right now doesn't make sense. Him even challenging for the world title, I'm not particularly keen on because I just don't believe that he could win. His title reign was good. He definitely should have been champion. But I think we're in some good momentum we've gone through at the moment. Then we had Bron Breaker defeating Jey Uso to win back the Intercontinental Championship. It started off as a pretty good match. The fucking Frankensteiner off the top he does, where he doesn't use hands, is incredible. That being Bron Breaker. But the story of the match: Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, they interviewed the crowd. He had some tickets. Jay then went out, got distracted, and then he turned around. Tonga Loa was there. Jey super kicked him. Tama Tonga then leaped off the barricade. Jey super kicked him too. And then Sikoa hopped the barricade, told Jey, you need to join with us. Bron then tried to spear Jey, but Sikoa pushed him out of the way, and Fatu took the spear himself. And then Jacob Fatu, he hopped the barricade, got into Braun's face, and the crowd went wild for Braun, and Jacob Fatu stared out. It's really good. And then a suicide dive from Jey took both of them out. Crowd chanting, "This is awesome." Jey then tried to hit the Uso splash. Braun got his knees up. Braun went for a spear. Jey kicked super kick, spear. Good near fall. Tonga and Lower then leaped up on the apron. Pierce and officials come down. Get out the back, you're going. Jey then went for the running spear around the ring, but Jacob Fatu hit him for a super kick. Smirk dropped him on the table. And then Braun got Jey in the ring, hit the spear. 1, 2, 3. Braun is your new IC champ. So that was that. Good show. It was. You built up Crown Jewel. You built up Survivor Series because that it was a really good match. The near fall where Uso hit the 2 super kicks followed by the crossbody off the top. That was a great near fall. I literally thought that was it. It was a really good main event. It got given enough time, so it went 20 minutes. And there was enough distraction to the point where it wasn't, say, offensive, but it wasn't too much. So it was really good from that sense. And overall, a good episode of Raw. The first 2 hours I feel like they've nailed since moving back to 2 hours, and it'll be interesting to see what they do on Netflix. It'll be nice about the commercial breaks, especially during matches. During this main event there was 3 commercial breaks, 1 during the entrance, 2 during the match. That's too much. So literally out of that match I probably watched 12 minutes of it. So I mean, it seems like they're doing the exact same amount of adverts that they would do for 3 hours in 2, so they still make the same money. But hey ho. But overall, good episode of Raw. Glad this is the one I decided to sit down and watch and review. It's difficult though, because as someone who comes on and reviews the show, when the shows are bad, sometimes that's easier because you can just vent. There was nothing bad about this show. Minus the New Day stuff, which I really don't care for. The Priest Gunther, that's something I really don't care for. But who else? Who else can challenge Gunther? So from that perspective, that's fair enough. That's your Saturday night's main event world title match. Besides that, let me know down below what you thought of this episode of Raw, and I'll respond to each and every comment. Looking forward to doing a show with Dion again sometime down the road. I'm looking forward to uploading more. So with that in mind, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, stay safe, stay well, and I'll be catching your asses down the line.